conversations during the documentary.
Oh, the NSA is listening to this podcast.
100%.
Hopefully, if they give us a like and subscribe. Let's go.
Do you think that we have our own agent listening to us?
Well, after this episode, yeah.
God help us.
Welcome, everybody, to RBM, Rise of Basic Men. I'm here with Joey. My name is Chris. David is out being Mr. Mountain Man on his challenge that he took out, and he's doing it's like a 40-mile hike through the mountains.
Yeah.
So me and Joey said, screw him, we're going to do our own episode. And I cannot be more excited.
So excited.
Seriously. So what we're talking about today is going to be it's just all paranormal. It's going to be the entire thing. We're going to talk about our own personal stuff that we've had with it and why, how we believe in it and all this kind of stuff. One of the first big conversations that me and Joey had that like really kind of solidified a good friendship was we sat there and talked about this stuff, and we're just like, wait, you knew about that? You know about that too? So yeah, I mean, when we first started talking about even doing a podcast, first thing that came in my mind was, ooh, we get to do a paranormal episode.
Yeah, this was the most exciting thing to look for, honestly, because I feel like whenever we talk about it, we go down such a deep hole, right?
Oh, man.
And you'll say things that I've never heard about, or vice versa, and it's one of those things where I think you meet some people that might not believe in certain stuff, or I haven't seen it and this and that, or they can't fathom the idea that there are some weird things that happen out there.
Oh, right? Yeah, 100%.
So
there's a lot of weird stuff out there, and especially with the internet nowadays. I mean, you obviously got to go through fact and fiction on a lot of the stuff you see on the web, but with the web out there, it's much more visible out there with the crazy stuff that's going on in this world.
But also too, you got people that put fake things out there.
Oh, 100%.
Right. To get their views, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get their name out there. And so
how many of those have I sent to you?
Too many. Too many, man.
I'm like, no, it's real. It's real.
Some of the things that I see out there, I'm just like, it's pretty easy to tell. You're like, okay, like this is messed up and fake.
Just believe.
Yeah, just believe. That's it. That's all you gotta do.
Let me ask you. So, like,
sure.
what really got you into any kind of paranormal thing, or is there something in the paranormal realm that you're more into than the others, or what you got?
And let me just clarify. When you're saying paranormal, are we just talking ghosts?
We're talking ghost, aliens, UFOs, Bigfoot, Nessie, Loch Ness Monster.
Loch Ness, yeah.
Let's the whole gambit, everything.
Well, with me, it started very early. Okay. And I remember being in school when I was a young kid, and I hated reading. I hated it. Right. I still do. Like, I'm a visual learner. I'd rather like audiobook it or watch something. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd be in the media center or the library, and I would constantly find myself in the section talking about Bigfoot or space or, Loch Ness, Nessie, whatever. And I would just be like, this is real. What? And that's the first thing I think it hooked me, being like, what is this?
Right.
Right. There's a book about it. And then you might see it on TV and you're like, oh, this Bigfoot. Oh my God. Is there really this thing or ghosts? So to me, it was always something to entertain me outside of the school, things I had to do.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
This didn't help me in school, by knowing these things or reading about them. But that's when it really first, I think, caught my attention. Was
with you telling that story, what just popped in my mind, a memory of mine. It was in elementary school, like 4th or 5th grade, something like that. Cause I lived at Austin at the time. And you remember those like scholastic book fairs?
Yeah.
Where you get the posters and all that kind of stuff. Oh man. I remember getting a poster of like a Ferrari and then a book about UFOs. And I was like 4th or 5th grade. And that was like the start of it all. So
Ferraris and Bigfoot.
Ferraris and UFOs. Yeah. So that was like the start for me as well. At a young age, it was very like, oh, what is this?
Sure.
'Cause you see jets and stuff like that, but you're like, what is this
Sure.
round thing that doesn't fly? And, just kind of getting into that. And then all the TV shows that come along with it, being super into, any kind of sci-fi movies and all that kind of stuff, man.
I mean, I don't know about you, but there's kind of some pivotal points. Like the more I looked into this and thought about it and talked about it with people like you or whoever, the more you learn,
Mm-hmm.
the older you get, the more wiser you are. Right. Like, and something that really caught my eye, like when I was younger, I started thinking about like space.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh yeah, space. It's space, but you don't know anything about it. You just know it. It's just in our vocabulary, right? Like, yeah, space.
Yeah.
But thinking about how vast and how large space is, and then you start thinking of life. How did we get here? What's the possibilities? Then you got religion, then you got the science, but like there's so many things that we do have theories / answers for, or that we know, but then there's a lot of stuff that we don't know.
Yeah.
And the stuff we don't know is kind of scary. Like, it brings you to the ocean or something. Like, how much do we really know about the ocean? And maybe there is something in there that we don't know.
It's like one of those things they say, we know more about space than we do the depths of the ocean.
Scary.
Like,
that's scary.
Scary, right?
Scary.
I saw this thing the other day and it said like, there's been, 12 or 13 people that have been on the moon. Only 3 people have been down in the Marianas Trench. Like there's been less people down in the deepest part of the ocean than there has been to another celestial body.
Do you think the bottom of the ocean, the deepest part right there, do you think that is worse environment than space to where we can't,
it's harder for humans to go for sure, just because of the pressures that are down there. And you have to be in this gigantic sub. And, we all know what happens when you get down there in a janky
RIP
sub. Yeah.
Ocean Gate.
Ocean Gate. But it's a much harder thing on the human body, the pressure down there. Now, it's easier for us to make a spaceship, quote unquote, to go into space and be able to do things out there. Hell, we're going to be going to Mars here in the next few years.
Yeah.
Unless the aliens come down and just give us a ship, which that could happen. I also have my other theories, and we can go down a whole freaking rabbit hole with all that kind of stuff. But.
Well, let me ask you this, Chris: what is the one paranormal, the one thing out there that's just you love pondering about it? You just love reading about it. What is that thing for you?
So my one thing is absolutely UFO and aliens, 100%. Like hands down, that's like the biggest thing out there. It's when I run out of things to watch on TV, I'm going on Amazon and I'll pay for documentaries that are on there. Sure. Whether they're shitty or whether they're amazing. And there are some great documentaries on there. And, I will spend the $5 to rent that movie, but I won't spend $5 to rent like a really good movie somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
you won't spend $5 for a coffee, but you'll
exactly. Keep your coffee. I want UFOs.
Okay.
But that's like my number one thing, man.
Okay.
I like to say I'm very knowledgeable in it just from all the documentaries that I've seen, and seeing several different sides of the same topic is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Because when you watch all those, you see, oh, they're coming in peace and this and that. Oh, wait, we need to know what they're doing. They're here to come after us. They're flying with impunity, all this kind of craziness. And there's, other sides to it too. Some very out there thoughts on this UFO situation.
Yeah.
Whether it's aliens, whether it's, inner Earth, whether there's a whole litany of situations that are out there.
Well,
scenarios.
More recently when the government and NASA came together, right, to kind of put their thoughts on this whole UFO phenomenon that's been happening more lately, right?
Yeah.
And they said that there was about majority of the cases they could prove that were other countries, it was humans, it was just other technology, but there was a good amount of things out there, videos, things like that they can't prove.
Yeah, I think that it was like 5%, or maybe even a little bit bigger, but it was a substantial percentage of the cases that they've had
It's not zero.
Yeah, it's not zero. Exactly. If one of those is correct, changes the world as we know it. Yeah, recently they're holding hearings at Congress and the Senate and all this kind of stuff. NASA held their hearings with the Whistleblower Act going through, where people can come out that are pilots, and also just people in the military. Really? Yeah, like high up. That's who David Grush, the big whistleblower that came out. Yeah. He was part of the, super high intelligence, secret intelligence. And he came out because of this whistleblower act that they put out. So they're under protections to say the things and tell them to Congress.
I think that's awesome.
It's amazing.
Like, where does that fall in line with like Edward Snowden?
Well, I mean, that's like, what was that? That wasn't WikiLeaks. That was just,
I mean, he gave a whole bunch of information. It wasn't based off of the starships or anything like that, but it was based off of our own government spying on us.
Exactly. It was all about them spying on us. I mean, hell, they
free Ed.
Yeah, free Ed. I think Ed's doing okay.
Yeah, he's doing all right. I hope so.
But yeah, with that whole whistleblower act, I mean, it's going to blow everything up, man. I think one of the biggest things about this transparency and this, quote unquote disclosure, something that sticks out to me is something that, oh gosh, what's his name? Bob Lazar, right?
Bob Lazar, yeah.
Huge name in the UFO community. But one of the things that he says, he's like, I don't really care if they're aliens or whatever.
He just wants the technology.
He wants the technology. Exactly.
It's life-changing.
Exactly. Because that gets us away from fossil fuels. That gets us that puts the trajectory of humanity goes exponential after we release these technologies. Yeah. But, not to put my conspiracy hat on real quick here, but, they're the people that are in power, the people with the money, not even necessarily talking about the government, right? People in power with the money are making money on these fossil fuels and other enterprises.
They don't want to lose it.
They don't. Yeah. You want to take my $100? Go F yourself. Yeah. Right. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But with the government getting involved, it is making it closer and closer to that, which I'm extremely excited for.
Well, something that Bob Lazar was talking about that he mentioned had to do with Nikola Tesla and free energy, like energy's in the air, in the ground, and anyone can access it. Supposedly, if we went that direction, we wouldn't have internet, cell phones. Like maybe we'd have something else, right? But having those things with the free energy and things like that, it wouldn't be capable. It wouldn't be possible with that technology. So if whatever happened with the government taking that out, right, then supposedly, taking all the Nikola Tesla's work after he quote unquote died, that if we went down that route as a society, it wouldn't be the same as today.
I mean, very, very much so. But the thing is it's hard to say whether it would have been better or worse, right? Because we don't know. That's tough.
But my point is what if?
Right. That's the whole thing about paranormal is the what if. It makes it so fun.
What if we make this new technology public, this UFO, this not Earth technology? Mm-hmm. How do you think that would disrupt the world today? Oh. I know you spoke on we got the richest of riches, the 1%ers, the 0.1 of 1%ers, right? Right. But just as a whole in general, not screwing people over like that, and they would be upset and maybe start, Clinton people.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Just suddenly get a heroin addiction and OD. Yeah,
exactly.
No, obviously the world economy would fold in on itself.
Yeah, crash.
It would crash. But then you would build a new one, right? It would have to build up from new technologies and stuff like that. That's the scary part now, I assume. That's if I was in that realm, that would be my justification to not lose my money in fossil fuels for that. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But yeah, I think that's the biggest holdback from it. So what you've been seeing in the last, even since the 70s or 60s, is kind of like a slow kind of rollout, putting it into pop culture. You got, what's that movie? E.T., making it, making people love the alien. You have Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. Making it more popular. Hell, you had that movie. Have you seen that movie, Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing movie. makes it more, you're seeing that more often, right? You're seeing that
Sure.
face, seeing an alien. And there's countless movies out there. Heck, the Avengers, you know, they got aliens on there. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they've gone into pop culture, and I feel like it's just, you know, making it easier for us, the pill to be easier to swallow.
Sure.
Whenever they do let it out, which, you know, we'll see what happens there. But
what do you think that these aliens are religious figures that started?
So going into the ancient aliens theory, I got you.
Yeah. I mean, going back, well, maybe that's a whole discussion for another episode and whatnot. But, you know, you got a lot of similarities between different countries, you know, throughout history that had no communication with each other, that were putting together pyramids, right? There's the most well-known one, but there's plenty of other things out there that just don't make sense.
Right. One of the biggest things that I just recently saw on, I forgot what documentary I was watching, but they were showing how a lot of the deities that they worship are so similar, and they're on different sides of the world. Like there's one, is it not Kukulkan? Maybe it is Kukulkan. In Mexican culture, in the Incan culture, there's the feathered serpent, right? You have another deity where it's a human body with several snakes on the head, right? And in Greek, you have Medusa. In the Hindu religion, you have another deity there. You have in the Chinese religion, you have another deity there too. You know, back in those long ago cultures, the thought is that it's just one person that just went around.
But it's all based on of how they could picture or describe, like for instance, chariot of fire.
Right.
Well, that was their way of understanding, hey, this was a vehicle and there was lights, but that's fire to them, right? Chariots of fire. And then in other countries, they would say, oh, we saw this and it looked like an angel with wings, bird wings. It flew and it was a person, a dragon, right? Yeah. So I'm wondering.
Ezekiel's wheel. Have you ever heard of that one?
Ezekiel's wheel.
Yeah. In one of the books of the Bible, Ezekiel is essentially abducted by a wagon. Basically, it was like a wagon wheel on fire, and they take him and they go out, dude. Like that's a real thing.
Oh my god!
They talk about that. I watch a lot of Ancient Aliens, so I'm very well versed on that kind of stuff. Yeah, they talk about that a lot. That's a really, really like literature. Also, look at the artwork from back then too. A lot of artwork out there in the background. You see UFOs. Yeah, there's like one. It's like one of the most famous like paintings ones with the Virgin Mary. Yeah.
And there's lines shining out of it, you know, but it looks exactly like how we depict UFOs today.
Exactly. And there's another one where, you know, it shows, I think it's the Virgin Mary, but in the background, you have a guy and his dog pointing up.
Yeah. Yeah. They're in the distance pointing up. Yeah.
At a UFO in the background. It's like, they're not in on any kind of conspiracy or anything like that back then. Like, where did that come from?
Exactly.
So, you know, there's a lot of talk of like, oh, you know, they just showed up in the 40s because of all the nuclear weapons and all that kind of stuff. No. They've been here for millions of years.
They might have shown their face a bit because they're seeing that we're evolving and, you know, developing these very powerful and dangerous weapons, right?
Like a bunch of idiots.
Yeah. We can definitely destroy our own planet, and maybe they're helping us, right? Maybe they tweaked DNA and got us to where we were.
That's another theory where they're the ones that came in and messed with us, made our evolution go much quicker than it should have.
Sure.
You know, the classic missing link that they keep looking for, can't find because genetic manipulation was happening.
Yeah. That's
another big theory. You know, I don't know if you've heard of, I'm sure you have the Anunnaki. That's another big thing.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Of course I have.
One of the cool things with the Anunnaki theory that it makes too much sense that like, I'm just like, this can't be real, is if you know the story that they're, you know, a race from the planet Nibiru way out there, you know,
Planet X.
Yeah. Planet X, all that kind of stuff. But they needed gold. They needed to mine gold in order to keep their atmosphere going. Right. So they came to Earth and found our predecessors, you know, all the apes and stuff like that. They genetically engineered the apes to go into mines and look for gold. And with that genetic predisposition to gold, what is like Earth's favorite thing in the world?
Water.
Gold. Gold, right? Gold is so valuable to humans for no reason, right? Other than we were predisposed to look for gold and cherish gold.
Interesting.
Right? Have you ever heard that?
No, I've never heard that.
It's such a weird thing to think about, right?
And how do we come to that?
I don't know. But like, if you even go back thousands of years, they're like, everything's made of gold. Why did the Spanish come to the Americas?
It's a strong metal, right? It's unique.
It's malleable.
It looks good. It's malleable.
It's pretty.
Yeah. So it's possible or not.
That's what this all is.
It's aliens.
It's all aliens. Everything I talk about anytime is all aliens.
Talking about people, because I would like to go back into Bob Lazar at some point.
Yes.
Because he's like the father of all this stuff. Well, actually, let's keep up with that, because there's another guy I want to go into after this. But for anyone who doesn't know who Bob Lazar is, he was a scientist that was recruited to work at Area 51 to reverse engineer spaceships. Recovered spaceships.
So yeah, he was a scientist, and there's a great documentary made by Jeremy Corbell.
Yeah.
Is that the other guy you were talking about?
No.
Okay, it's a different guy. Okay. Jeremy Corbell. Let's go back to the beginning of it, right? So George Knapp, who's an investigative reporter from Las Vegas, he's the one that came in and broke the story. He broke the Bob Lazar story.
Yeah.
Initially he's very skeptic and so on and so forth, but as he got to know him, the story never changed. It always kept going. He worked at I think it was JPL, and then he ended up working, not JPL, somewhere else, sorry. But he ended up working at for Area 51, and specifically at a site called S4.
Yep.
And at S4, I think he said he saw 9 craft, and he was in charge of reverse engineering the propulsion.
Yep. Which,
when they get into it, there's element 115, which is something that we don't have, that we actually recently discovered.
The Germans.
Yeah, I got a whole different thing about that. We'll get into that.
The Germans reverse. It's now on the periodic table.
Yeah. Yeah, but they just recently found it, but in an unstable state, where they have it in a stable state, and that's what causes the gravitational wave that they're able to, ride and do all these crazy maneuvers. And so George Knapp initially did that, but
the reason why he did the story too is, so Bob Lazar actually got a little irresponsible, and took his friends out to go see a test flight of one of these UFOs at night. He could go somewhere on site, and they started doing this, a handful of times. Well, one night, these people in ghillie suits appeared and took everyone in. Okay, so they were caught watching this test run. And they were recording it too, but it's like VHS, like shoulder mounted. So it's pretty bad. What happened was, when they took him in to question him, he found out that they were recording his home. His home was bugged, his phone. And more specifically, they knew that his wife was messing around on him.
Right. And so that's when they fired him.
So he went home, and he was actually afraid for his life.
Mm-hmm.
Which, long story short, that's how he went to James Knapp. That's George Knapp. Sorry. And that's why the story went out, is so he could tell the story just in case anything happened. And it was kind of like his weapon or protection.
Right. And it has been ever since.
Yeah. And just like you mentioned, his story hasn't changed in years. And the things that he specifically has pointed out have came to public. Like how we got into, instead of a key card, you put your hand on this flat surface, and it has these little prongs sticking out that go in between your fingers, and it measures your bones. Right. And people are like, what is that? And in that documentary that you mentioned, they show him a picture of it.
Right. It's called Bob Lazar and Area 51. If you haven't seen it, it's a very good watch. The guy who does it, Jeremy Corbell, is what's the Padawan? He's like an understudy to George Knapp. Yeah. So him and George Knapp, they actually have their own podcast, which is really good too. But nice. He goes in there kind of with like a skeptic mind and tries to do a little bit of gotcha on him, but you're not going to get him because it's all 100% true in his eyes. even does like a really cool drawing of how the propulsion system works. It's insanely interesting. It's really, really good. You know, that's probably one of the better ones I've seen in a long time as far as documentaries and stuff like that. I think it's on Netflix actually too.
And it's pretty, I've seen it more than a few times actually. And in that documentary, the FBI comes in to raid Bob Lazar's business, and they say it's because of something with a computer, something about some order of his, but there was a shit ton of agents there. And
it has
to do with that element 115.
Yeah, because they think he still has some.
And along the way of them filming, they would turn off their cell phones, set them, away, whatever. And they believe that maybe they were listening
100%.
On their conversations during the documentary.
Oh, the NSA is listening to this podcast.
100%.
Hopefully if they give us a like and subscribe. Let's go.
Do you think that we have our own agent listening to us?
Well, after this episode, yeah.
God help us. Yeah.
See him parked outside. We'll moon him. It's fine.
No, but another guy that I don't know if you knew too much about, but Phil Schneider.
Yeah. I know a little bit about him. I'm blanking on it.
So yeah, in a nutshell, Phil Schneider, he was known for building DUMBs, which are underground bases. It's an acronym. I forgot what it.
I know exactly what you're talking about now.
Deep underground military bases, DUMBs. I think what does that stand for? Well, what happened to him was during these creations or development of these underground tunnels and bases, he actually went down in this little elevator shaft to go down into the ground, which they were, I guess, developing. And there were aliens down there, and it smelled really bad. He said it was just really bad. And there was a special forces security guy with something. Well, long story short, a battle infused, started up, and there was this big light that shined from this alien's chest, and it burned off his pinky and ring finger. And I think on both hands, maybe. Yeah. And the security guard pushed him back into the elevator and put him back up, and everybody died down there. And he went around and talked about all these things. Not only that scenario, that his story right there, but other things. But the weird thing is he supposedly killed himself.
He got suicided, yeah.
By hanging himself, okay, mind you, and his apartment or house or office was ransacked, taken all of his notes, paperwork, everything that he's ever had. He actually told his wife prior to this happening, he goes, if I ever kill myself, it wasn't me.
Right.
And not only was it ransacked, but I don't know how this would be, but I'm sure maybe there's a way, but because of the fingers that he didn't have, the knot that he tied to hang himself, they say it's impossible based on the fingers that he had.
Right.
I don't know what that is, but it's just very weird to think that people in certain scenarios with certain information and knowledge that go out and talk about these things and that create a following can typically just disappear.
Perish. Yeah. And that's going back to the whole whistleblower act and everything like that. That's why nobody said anything, because they're terrified of that. It's such a shame, right? Because if this does come out and we get disclosure, all these deaths, I mean, because there's countless. I mean, there's Schneider, and there's so many. There's a list of other ones, all died in vain because of a lie. You know what I mean? It's so sad to think about. But
well, I'll say this too is it sucks saying this, but there are scenarios where we can't have information. You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I hate saying this. But
you were in the military.
You know, I'm sure there are scenarios where it does call for some people to kind of like, get them out of here, right? Based on what they might be telling people or showing people. But majority of times, I really don't think that it calls for any of this. Because how many years has it been since we've been talking about aliens, it's being abducted or who knows what, and you're just labeled as crazy.
Yeah, it's
any conspiracy.
It's only literally been in the last like 5 years.
Yeah.
That has been acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's insane. Like, heck, even growing up and, in my 20s, 10, 15 years ago, I wouldn't really talk about this kind of stuff.
Sure.
I'd very select few. But now, dude, all my friends know, Chris is on another tangent.
A little bender
of talking about stuff. I just love talking about it, man. It's just so much fun.
I never told you about Oregon.
You had an experience. That's right.
Yeah.
Ooh, let's tell our fans. This is an exclusive right here. Let's go.
I'm going to fill up my drink really quick because I need it.
Fill it up.
Okay. So me and my wife went to Oregon recently for about a week just to get away, right? And it was really beautiful up there. If you ever get a chance to go to the Pacific Northwest, do it. We went on the coast. It's a very beautiful weather, nice people.
Except for that one house.
Yeah, except for that one house. I won't go into that. But so this was, I don't know what time it was. It was dark out, and it gets dark late in the night. So maybe it was around midnight or 11:30. I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
But we were on the beach having a fire, and we're done. So we're picking up, and it's kind of a distance from where we were at to the stairs to go back up to our hotel,
mm-hmm.
right? Where we're staying. And we're sitting there and we're walking back and we're talking. And I look back at the beach, and I look up in the sky. Dude, I can't explain it. So I was trying to think to myself, how do I explain this? So if I was to put my hands, so an open palm, maybe about, 6 inches from my face,
mm-hmm.
and looking into the sky, that's how long this was. Okay.
Oh, so it's huge.
Yeah. That's how long it was. I'm just thinking of it like literally 6 inches from my face right now. And I'm looking in the sky. That's the distance in the sky that it was. It was a straight line, and it looked like a blue laser, just straight blue laser. And it was moving slowly, not diagonal. It was just a straight line for like, I don't know, maybe like 30 seconds. And I even, once I saw it, I go, hey, wife, hey, look up. What is that? She's like, oh my God, I don't know. And we just stared at it. And then it just disappeared.
No.
Not in a blink. It just
like faded out.
It just faded quickly. This blue stream of a laser light. I can't tell you how long this was, but it was in the distance and it was long. Okay. Again, that's the only way I can say it. It's like 6 feet, open palm, 6 feet from your eyes, looking up in the sky.
6 inches.
6 inches. 6 feet. Dear God. That's how I can picture it. So I don't know.
So crazy. You didn't get a picture or anything of it though?
No. And I'm sure iPhones do really well at night in the sky, but
they're notoriously bad.
I should have tried, but I was just I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen something in the sky like that.
Really?
Yeah.
First time seeing something like that?
Yeah. I would love to experience certain things that doesn't scare the shit out of me or harm me in any way,
Right.
But yeah, it was different.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen 2 in my life. One was, we were driving, how old was I? Maybe 12, 13 years old. We were driving from, where was it? From California to Texas, I think. I don't know. It was just me, my mom, and my aunt. And I'm laying in the back of the minivan. In fact, it was a Ford Windstar back then. It was a purple Ford Windstar.
Chris, you're aging yourself.
I know. And
we had 4 horses, a buggy.
Yeah, so I'm just laying in the back and looking up and I see this, like, it was bigger than a star. It was a big light. I'm like, oh, that's weird. And I was like, oh wait, it's moving. It's like following us. And then I get up and I look out the window to make sure it's not like just a light, bouncing off of something like that.
Yeah.
And I look up and I'm staring at it for maybe 30 seconds. Like you're saying, like 25, 30 seconds.
Sure. Yeah.
And it does one of these like zig, zag, out. One move, 2 move.
Yeah.
out.
45 degrees down.
Yeah.
Straight left and then out.
Just gone. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, did I just, what?
No one else went. No one saw it?
Nobody saw it but me. And so
they're like, shut up, Chris.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I have a whole litany of other stories that I can go into.
I'll turn this damn bus around.
There's 4 Winstars going home. Shut up. No, I got a ton of other stories that we'll wait for other episodes to talk about these other stories. But
Sure.
the UFO sighting was that one. There was another one when I lived in Albuquerque. This was 10 years ago, and I was like, what, 26, I think. And so I was out there just, cruising. I didn't know anybody out there. So I would just go out on drives. And there was this one drive out there. I had this 4x4 truck, and it was like a little dirt road and all this kind of stuff. And I would go out there, and it was a really good viewpoint of the city. And, I'm just sitting there, had a beer, probably shouldn't have been driving, but but I was sitting on the tailgate having a beer and looking over the city, just chilling. And I see, it wasn't a long line like yours, but it was cylindrical. It was like a smaller, what you would call cigar shape, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of like going real slow over the city, going real slow. And then all of a sudden, just faster, gone. And I was like, whoa. And that was a much shorter thing. Like, it was like, I saw it. I was like, what the hell? Boom, 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 gone. So it was like maybe like 5 seconds of seeing. I just like happened to glance in the right direction at the right time. But yeah, those are my 2. I was like, holy shit. My 2 UFO sightings. We'll talk about other stuff that I see in other episodes. But yeah, those were pretty crazy.
What about the Phoenix Lights?
So
was that in like 99 or 91 or 95?
I think it was 96.
96.
My grandmother lives in Phoenix, and I remember hearing them talk about, like, just watching the stories. They didn't see it or anything like that, but there is a great documentary on that made by, I think is his name Phil Fox. I think he's the one that did another one that we'll talk about called Moment of Contact. I think his name's Phil Fox. Check that for me. But this one was called We Know What We Saw, I believe. And yeah, it talks all about it too. It's a whole conspiracy thing too, because so basically the Phoenix Lights, there was a giant triangle shaped UFO that flew over the entire city of Phoenix all the way down into
massive,
Tucson. Huge,
massive,
like multiple football fields long. And people are seeing this, and they can see the outline of the triangle as it passes above them, maybe 100 feet above them.
People on the road, it's just very dark, metallic.
Yeah.
And it was just quiet, wasn't it?
Yeah. There was no sound. Yeah. Which is another characteristic of UFOs.
So yeah, it's James Fox.
James Fox. Yeah. I don't know why Phil came in mind, but yeah, James Fox. What's the name of is it is the one I said? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure. There's so many different documentaries.
I Know What I Saw.
I Know What I Saw. That's what it was.
Yeah. I Know What I Saw by James Fox, 2009 documentary.
Yeah. Great. If you're into this kind of stuff, which if you're this far into the episode, I really hope you are, check that one out. But yeah, going back to the Phoenix Lights. So an entire city saw this, right? There's multiple videos,
multiple 911 calls,
all kinds of crazy stuff. And so it even got to the point where they had to have, press conferences with the governor and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And at the time, the governor he's kind of an asshole about it, right? He brings one of his assistants out in a alien costume. He's like, we've found the culprit, and brings people out, which is, funny. But at the time, it's just kind of like, dude, bad timing. Should have done that. Should have been more serious about it.
Sure.
Turns out years later, he comes out and says, he's like, I saw it too. I just, was pressured and I had to kind of brush it off. And, oh yeah, it was just flares. It's like, no, dude. And he had his own sighting. So like, he's a full believer. And I think he's like a big advocate for this whole disclosure thing now.
Yeah.
I can't think of the governor's name right now, but yeah, Phoenix Lights was a huge thing.
And that just went like, again, these massive things that happen. And it's not just one person claiming they saw something, like me and Chris, we telling our stories or whatever. Right. This is a whole city of people on the road. Maybe they're visiting. Maybe they live there and they look up, and it lasted for a while up in the sky.
Oh yeah. I mean, it wasn't even just Phoenix. It started north.
Yeah. It traveled.
North, north of Phoenix all the way down to Tucson, which is like another, I think it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Phoenix. So it's called the Phoenix Lights, but it was almost all of Arizona was seeing this. So,
but see, that's what's bugging me. I feel like these things happen And it doesn't even have to be this. It could be any major thing, right? And I feel that we'll have these little press conferences or it'll be on the news. And then the next thing that happens, maybe someone ate X amount of McDonald's burgers and broke a record or something. And then it just moved. That's the new thing.
The 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah. And it's like
next?
everyone forgets what happened last month or,
Right.
And to me, it's like, oh yeah, I don't believe in UFO. What the? What? Yeah, it's unidentified. Okay. And people, when you think UFO, they immediately think aliens. Okay. I get the terminology UFO means it's just unidentified. It could be it could be anything. It could be us. We don't know. But what is that?
Right.
What is that?
Yeah.
Like,
we don't know. Like that. And actually now they've even changed the vernacular. It's UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomenon. So much like more to the mouth. But
you know what's crazy is how I heard that new acronym was back in the day. I heard like Hillary Clinton or someone say, well, actually we call them UAPs.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what else do you know?
Well, that all started with the whole UAP thing started when was it To the Stars Academy came out, and that's what was it, 2017 when the big New York Post, was it New York Post? No, Washington Post came out. One of the posts came out with a big article about the 3 UFO sightings that happened and were videoed by military. And that came out, and that was a huge story.
Like recently?
Oh yeah,
it was above a Marine base or whatever, right?
Well, that's another one. But the 3 I'm talking about is the Go Fast video. There's the gimbal video, and then the David Fravor incident.
Sure. Yeah.
So those came out, and Lou Elizondo came out as somebody that was in charge of a government funded research into UFOs, and they came out and called them UAPs. Yeah, and only to kind of get the stigma away from UFOs, because somebody says UFO, you're like, oh, okay, this guy's crazy, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where UAPs came from.
Gotcha.
Is they changed it. Do you know who runs the To the Stars Academy that enlists Chris Mullen and Lou Elizondo and all those guys?
Where are you? Tom DeLonge?
Yes. Blink 182. Yeah. And apparently his story is pretty interesting because, he was talking about it where he would be on the road and he had nothing to do but read UFOs and that's what he was into. And he just delved so far into it. And even back then, people were giving him a lot of shit saying, oh, dude, you're insane. You're a crazy person for believing.
Of course you are, right?
Of course, right?
Yeah.
And then here we go, 2017, and even now it's just like, oh wait, you may have been right. It's.
But that's my thing. It's like stuff like this. You can frequently see. You can measure. You can talk to other people about that. It's not their belief. These are hard facts. These are sightings. These are I was there. This is on this document. I've been in this meeting. I know we have these. This is documented facts, if not really good numbers for a theory on stuff that we already have, but mostly facts. It's combining people in powerful positions and they're sharing this information,
right?
As opposed to anything else. Like, well, I believe this. And it's like, well,
I don't care what you believe.
You have nothing to back that up. But think about it, believe it. Sure. But this has been an ongoing thing where people are really quickly labeled as crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And you get someone like Tom DeLonge.
It doesn't really help the case, to be honest with you.
I love it. But again, that's the thing, right? Like, this rock star. And then he starts this To the Stars, based off of gathering information and intel on UAPs and people with knowledge around that and what we're doing and where they're coming from, everything. And there's actually a guy I work with, a new guy. I was talking to him. We were all getting these little, who you are, welcome, little conversation. And he, at his last job, I forgot what it was, but he spoke with Tom DeLonge with To the Stars or whatever.
Really?
And because they were like working with him, it was like an agency or something, right? And they were working with them, and he was telling me all about it. And apparently, super cool. And he was just going to town on, this, and aliens, this, whatever.
You're like, yes, more, please.
Yeah, and I was like, that is amazing, right? So, that's pretty interesting.
It's really interesting. So what I said earlier in this episode was talking about like the two different sides, or there's multiple different sides, but there is a different side to like beliefs of why they're coming, right? Or, you know, if you believe that aliens are coming, why they're coming, right? So Tom DeLonge, Lou Elizondo, Chris Mullen, all those guys, right? That whole side, the To the Stars Academy people, what they want to know, they think of it as more of a threat because we don't know who they are. Their big phrase that you'll hear all the time. You'll hear Jeremy Corbell say it all the time is they're flying with impunity in government airspace, all this kind of stuff.
Above war zones, bases.
Right. 100%, which is true. But they want to know what it is, but they think it's a threat, right? So that's their side. So there's another side. It's Dr. Greer. I can't think of his first name. Dr. Greer, who's a big name in this, right? So he did, I think it was 2001, maybe. He did a national press conference, and he had, speaking of whistleblowers, he had like a lineup of like 30 whistleblowers, ex-government employees, and they were telling exactly what they said, or exactly what they saw and all this kind of stuff.
It was insane hearing those stories.
Oh man, I've seen them all, and he actually just did a new one with all the stuff that's going on with David Grush, right?
Yeah.
So if you watch his documentary, so he has two that I can think of right at this moment. One is called Unacknowledged. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. It is one of my top favorite documentaries. Unacknowledged. And then he has another one, a follow-up to that, called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which goes into more of what he actually believes, right?
Sure.
So his belief is that they're very much, it's benevolent, right? That's the good one. I always get them confused, but they're very benevolent. They're here to help and all this kind of stuff. And what he's saying is there is put in the tinfoil hat, government conspiracy to do a false flag saying that these UFOs are evil enemies. We don't know. We need to shoot first, ask questions later. And that's going to create a whole new...
That's been the idea for a while that people have already talked about, which is they'll have some sort of technology or base it off of this UFO invading us. And it's one of those conspiracy theories where the end result is New World Order, one government.
Well, you know what it's called? It's called Project Bluebeam, right? That's what they call it. Yeah. Exactly. And so it's like an actual government document that they found. So there's, like I said, two sides. You have one side saying, we don't know what these are. They're a threat. And then you have Dr. Greer on the other side saying, this is a benevolent thing. They're here to help. He's had nothing but great experiences. And the experiences that he talks about in that second documentary, the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, it's...
Fifth kind is when you actually, like, you're there, or you actually get to touch them or something, right? Like,
it's more of like there's
the first kind, second kind, all the way to like fifth kind. I forgot.
Look it up real quick, and because I know, I think that it only goes up to the fourth kind. I know fifth kind is just seeing something. Second is having physical. Well, we'll see. He's Joe's looking it up right now.
See what I got here.
But yeah. So you know, there's two sides to it, and I don't know which side to pick after watching all these different things. I'm kind of in no man's land. I have no idea what I personally think. I would like to think they're benevolent. What are the kinds?
Let's see what this says. When a person sees a UFO within 150 meters, it's encounter of the first kind.
So you had a counter of the first kind.
Yeah. Yeah. When an encounter with a UFO in the sky or on the ground leaves evidence behind, such as scorch marks on the ground or indents, etc., it's of the second kind.
Right.
When an encounter is with visible occupants inside the UFO, it's of the third kind.
Oh.
The fourth kind involves the person being taken and experimented on inside the alien craft.
Mm-hmm.
And the fifth kind involves direct communication between aliens and humans.
Okay, so there's the fifth kind, and that's what he talks about.
So yeah, it's face-to-face communicating.
Or even just telepathic and stuff like that, which is kind of what he gets into. And there's also footage because he holds these like camps and he brings a ton of people out there with him, and they're, you know, filming it all, taking pictures and all this kind of stuff. And there are some insane like
stories.
photos and stories where you legit see a figure over somebody and like, oh yeah. And they interview that guy where the figure was over. He's like, I felt so comfortable and all this. Like he felt so.
When you say a figure,
you just got to watch it, man.
Don't do that to me.
I know. No, there's one particular one that's like scorched in my mind.
It's not Bigfoot. It's just blurry, right? It's an actual.
It is a blurry picture, but it is like very distinct. There's a guy sitting in like a regular fold out chair, just chilling. And there's a figure like above him. And it's not, it doesn't look like any kind of smudged picture or like forced thing. It looks like a figure standing above him with like a weird elongated head, not looking like any kind of,
not that we know of, not the typical,
typical gray that people know, but it's a very cool, that's one that scorches in my mind, but there's so many other ones.
You know, it sticks with me, and I actually looked this up so I can get the details of it. But you ever heard the story about the kids in Africa? They're in Zimbabwe. There was about 60 kids in recess. And apparently
I know what you're talking about. I think it was in was it in Africa or Australia?
So there was a deal in Australia as well too. I think that was in the 60s or something, maybe sooner. But I'll avoid the details. But essentially, what the story is, these kids were out on recess, and I think you're right. I think it was in like Melbourne or something like that.
Yeah, I think it
was in Australia, and this craft came down, landed, and the aliens came out, didn't say a word. Okay, and the kids could hear them talk to them
right
through their mind. Now, what happened after that is they all talked about this, about what they just experienced. All the kids, no one else saw this, I don't believe. It was just the kids. But they were all individually interviewed. And they also had the same story. They drew with crayons on pieces of paper about what they saw. And it was all the same stuff. And apparently the conversation or the takeaway based on what they were telling the kids telepathically was, y'all are ruining the world. And this is kind of like we want you to change the world. When you get older,
right?
We want you to reverse these things that, whatever. But it was a very weird hearing that. It's like, dude, these are kids. You really think all these kids got together?
Right. Well, they did a follow-up.
Yeah. When they were older. Yeah.
When they were all older, and story never changed. It was, I think James Fox does so many great documentaries in this field. Speaking of that, his most recent one that literally just came out, I think it came out either last year or the year before. So that's one thing. Whenever I'm looking at UFO documentaries, I don't do anything before 2022 or 2021.
Really?
I mean, well, last night I watched one from the 70s, which is a very famous one, but
sure.
It's just that one's called UFOs Are Real. But anyways, the one that he just came out with is called Moment of Contact. It's about a village in, I think it was Brazil, Varginha, Brazil. There's no like video evidence or anything like this, right? But what happened in this city has stayed with every single person in the city. He went and interviewed all these kinds of people. He went and interviewed 3 girls that saw the creature, cornered the creature, and like it just like looked scared, and they could hear things in their minds saying it would, like, I'm scared and all this kind of stuff. It was crazy. Girls freaked out. They ran away.
Where was this?
This was in Varginha, Brazil, which South America is a huge hub. What they call, let me ask you this. Let me get your knowledge.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you know what a UFO hotspot is called? Like when there's a ton of sightings, do you know what they call that? No. It is called a UFO flap. So
flap?
It's called a flap. Yeah. There's been a ton of flaps. There's one in Ohio, the Ohio River Valley. Hudson River Valley flap is another huge one. That's around the time of the Betty and Barney Hill incident. If anybody knows about that one.
That's the famous one, right?
Yeah. There's Florida's a big, Texas is actually a huge area for UFOs too. And we live in Austin, which there's been several sightings here recently too.
Recently?
Yeah. One of the things, we're going to be bringing guests on. One of the biggest gets that I really want to have somebody come on from the local MUFON. If anybody knows what that is, it's called the Mutual UFO Network. and they have representatives all over the country, all over the world. And I would love to have somebody from the Texas or Central Texas MUFON network.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Oh my God. Oof. I'm telling you, we don't want to turn this into a UFO podcast whatsoever. Maybe we'll do one on the side.
David doesn't have to know.
Next time he goes on a trip. But yeah, you know, it's very cool. But going back to that Moment of Contact documentary, he's gotten testimonials and all this kind of crazy stuff from. There was a soldier who actually carried the alien to a hospital. In the hospital, there's like records of them bringing something to the hospital. That same soldier that took that
Is
alien
dead
to
now. They killed him.
No, he died of a bacterial disease that they could not figure out. Dude, if you haven't seen that, you need to watch it, dude. What's
it called again?
It's called Moment of Contact by James Fox. Yeah, put that in your notes, dude.
James Fox is
dude, I'm telling you, he does really good stuff. If you're looking, we've said a couple already, but if you're looking for documentaries about the subject, the people that you want to look at are going to be George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell, James Fox is a huge one. And oh God, there's one other one. I can't put my finger on his name right now. Dang it. But there are so many good ones out there. And honestly, Amazon Prime has them all. A lot of them are free now because I just paid for them when they first come out, but most of them are free now because I'm impatient. But
no, there's a few things out there that, or I should say people that have clear information. It's not just that's all little gray aliens and little black lights in the sky. These are people with experiences, stories. They have a network of people who have been hurt or has just affected them in such a way where they have to speak out to let people know what's really going on, and find those people, and it will connect you with others. And I'm sure if you reach out to us, Chris especially will feed you as much information as possible. And we'd love to hear your stories and any questions you guys have about this too. But I think at this point, we'll wrap up this episode.
Yeah, I don't want to take too long on this whole thing because I can literally talk for 10 hours on this or more.
Sure.
So I definitely look forward to the next time we get to talk about this stuff.
I do too, man. I do too.
We'll get into some more deeper stuff because this was definitely a lot of like kind of surface level, just getting people into it kind of thing. But one thing before we'd go, I want to let everybody know, we do have an Instagram out. You know, find us on social media, Instagram and Twitter, The Rise of Basic Men, all together. Look us up, follow us, like us. We'll be posting episodes whenever we can, and you'll see some behind the scenes stuff. You'll see us, farting around the studio here. You'll see us. You'll see David on his adventures.
Yep.
You'll see me on my weight loss stuff. We'll see Joey, doing nothing.
Yeah. Whatever Joey does, whatever this guy does. But no, we appreciate all your guys' support, and we're just jumping into this, and we really hope to hear from you guys on feedback, questions, just your overall interest, right? And how this has maybe affected you guys or how we've connected with y'all. But either way, feel free to reach out, connect, follow us, whatever, on all social medias. But really, until next time, guys, keep rising, keep inspiring, and remember, your story matters.
Absolutely. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Take it down.
I heard everything you said. 2 asshats. Remember, I have to edit every single one of these, right? Dicks.